Go.
So yes, thank you very much for your introduction. Actually, my intention is to point some ideas, some personal reflection regarding the meaning of life in the challenges of contemporary society. And I, I believe that one of the challenges is nihilism, is the ideology of nihilism. I will be short and I will emphasize some general idea and some personal reflection. So let me start with a quote from a famous Romanian philosopher, Emil Cioran. In a treatise on decompositions, he highlighted the reality of his philosophical thought. So I quote: moments follow one another. Nothing gives them the illusion of content or the appearance of meaning. They pass. Their course is not ours. We contemplate this passage, prisoners of a stupid perception, devoid of the art, confronted by the void of time, two mirrors reflecting each other's absence, one and the same image of nothingness. No matter how we intend to think about the 21st century and also the 20th century, uh, an echo of ontological, epistemological, gnoseological nihilism is heard fluctuating in the space of society, sometimes with greater intensity, sometimes with diminished presence. What is certain is that the tone of nihilism is a real challenge to society in today's context, a challenge to the theological discourse, to its substance, but also to people's everyday way of life by invalidating cardinal religious references. The constructivist tendencies of anteriority of traditional and authoritarian foundations mark a crisis of the meaning of life, a crisis which, on the one hand, can filter deep in human consciousness in an existential pessimism projected by the empty horizon of the not of the non, but on the other hand, a good opportunity for theological reflection of constant reconfirmation of the exiological values of Christian faith. Nihilism is a complex of philosophical beliefs centered on the idea of nothingness. It should be noted that nihilism, as a way of thinking, as an ideologization of meaninglessness, and has a denial of reality, does not begin in postmodernity and is not confined primarily to Friedrich Nietzsche, but begins in antiquity and is reactualized, if I say so, in modernism and in postmodernism. Stanley Rosen says that nihilism can be defined as the view that it doesn't matter what we say, because every definition of difference is itself just something we say. Helmut Tileke, if I yeah,
Tilike.
yeah, defines nihilism as the separation of the world from its absolute relationship with God, to generating a loss of self, while Carl Levitt understands it, at least in part, as the rejection of existing civilization. Absolute nihilism, Albert Camus wrote, is marked by a radical indifference to life. And I will highlight this meaning, this definition of the nihilism. Actually, we can spoke about a variety of understanding the nihilism. We can speak about epistemological nihilisms that states that knowledge is impossible, while aletheological nihilism states that any formulation of truth is impossible. In most cases, if one denies the possibility of knowledge, one also denies the possibility of truth, and vice versa. Ethical or moral nihilism holds that there are no moral absolute and that no system of ethics has any claim to validity. All judgments are invalid because they have no ultimate justification. By far, the most important aspect of ethical nihilism is its apparent tendency toward egocentrism and hedonism, in the sense that if there is no moral absolute, one can act exactly as one pleases. Metaphysical or ontological nihilism means the denial of an independently existing world. The world in reality is an ontological nothingness. And from my point of view, this kind of metaphysical nihilism has nothing to do with the concept of shunyata from Buddhism. There's different way to understand the reality of the world, of the cosmos, if you want. Existential or axiological nihilism is the sense of emptiness and of uselessness resulting from judgment. Life has no meaning. The existential nihilists judge human existence as pointless and absurd. It leads nowhere and adds nothing, being without horizon. It is entirely gratuitous in the sense that there is no justification for living, but no reason not to lie, to live. Those who claim to find meaning in their lives are either dishonest or deluded. In either cases, they fail to face the cruel reality of the human situation. One type of extreme pessimism is associated with existential nihilism. Also, we can speak about political nihilism that denies the political structure within which life is lived in the present and the social and cultural perspectives that inform these structures. It has little or no vision of constructive alternatives or how to achieve them. Finally, theological nihilism is the denial of God and is one of the cornerstones of modern nihilism, since Nietzsche's famous proclamation of the death of God and the rise of atheism during the Enlightenment. I will not emphasize the perspective of Nietzsche regarding the nihilism. Actually, in fact, the rhythm of today's world is an accelerated rhythm of experiences, social and technological transformations, ideological transitions, political events, economic fluctuation, a rhythm in which man defines his identity with increasing difficulty. Uncertainties and fears have a direct impact on man in the complexity of his condition, of his life. In filtering and relating to this issue, human meaning claims to be reformulated on the criteria of authenticity and the meaning, given that that forgetfulness and self-denial are some of the most dramatic form of anxiety and meaninglessness. Personally, I think that this context of our society emphasize horizon of nihilism. Some critical remarks regarding nihilism from a Christian perspective. Christian theology based on the revealed truth Jesus Christ can be an answer, a solution to man's search for rediscovering his meaning. We have heard the expression several times today. I have also. Let us learn to be human. I think we already know the answer. We just need to apply it in concretely in our life, in our relationship with ourselves, and in a relationship with other people. Christian theology is an effort to define man's search for his own meaning as a projection towards God. An authentic theology authentic one, shows the false antinomy between revelation and reason, faith and knowledge, grace and nature, courage and anxiety. Metaphysics, physics, philosophy, biology, and religion, others, despite their almost total independence, have begun to feel that they are interrelated and to realize that way of knowing which teach us that the light is not outside but within us, and that we ourselves, as the image of God, radiate light through the light of the world, which is our Savior Jesus Christ. Contemporary man is threatened by a self-created world, a world challenged and denied in the logic of nihilism. He is faced with the conversion of the mind to naturalism, a dogmatic secularism, and an opposition to faith in the transcendence. He begins to see, however, that the universe is given not as an existent and a perceived thing, but as an unity of subject and object, that the barrier between them cannot be said to have been dissolved as a result of recent experiments in the physical sciences, for this barrier did never existed. Confronted with the problem of meaning, he is called upon to rediscover the immutable and the permanent, which constitute the dynamic, unified aspect of life, as well as the principle of differentiation, to reconcile identity and diversity, immovability and restlessness. He begins to recognize that just as each person descends his or her particular path to science, to sin, so to is each person capable of ascending spiritual ascending, and that is this ascent is about a return to the source of creation and the life God. So man's rediscovery, human being rediscovery of self points the way to the rediscovery of God. In this, to this end, a rediscovery of first principle should be part of the search. This principle, which must not be replaced by new discoveries, are not those of historical words that appear and perish. They must be sought in the human heart and spirit. And no interpretation of a purely historical or scientific universe can guide in a true way in this rediscovery. An authentic theology strives to show that human being faces the metaphysical question of the truth of Christianity as the face of to the empirical question of its effect on human life and its meaning for society. So those were some of my remarks regarding the meaning of life, and in the meaning of life, how we understand the meaning of life in the context of contemporary world where nihilist tendencies are more and more and more present, regarding the values of life, regarding the importance to give meaning of what we are doing in every day, if we are religious or atheist. Yeah.